Hello, this is Beastly Eel, and on today's episode, we're going to be talking about the latest episode of The Bad Batch. So, to give you kind of a quick overview, it was kind of more of a filler episode, but I'll get into that a little bit further. As always, I'm going to talk about the episode and then move on to where I think the series is going because of what we learned during this episode. So, the episode starts off, we're on some random planet that is apparently used to be run by the enemies of the Republic. So what happened is the Empire is now over there, and they are trying to help out the planet. And so basically, they're just trying to take it over. And there's a senator there, and the senator is trying to do what's best for his people. So it seems like he's going to go with the Empire because there's nothing else he could do. I mean, he apparently was not the first senator to step forward, which implies the fact that the Empire has removed several senators. Um, so it seems like the crowd still likes the senator, and so as he's talking and talking about what they should do, and then all of a sudden he realizes that helping the Empire isn't helping his people, so he basically denounces the Empire. So he gets captured, and I almost said the order. That's wrong. The stormtroopers were ordered to remove all of the civilians out of the area. So he then orders his robot to follow his instructions to the T, and we're not quite sure what that meant. So the robot disappears as the senator, I should say, gets taken away. So what we find out now is that the robot is calling for help. That my senator needs to be, sorry, my master needs to be liberated. So we get to, so it changes over to the Bad Batch, and they're on Sid's planet, and they're basically just kind of messing around, and Omega asks for Omega asks when's the next mission, and Hunter goes, "We're not going to be doing one anytime soon because there's way too much heat on us." Specifically talking about Omega, and how he doesn't want there to be a big, I don't want to say big crowd, but he doesn't want a lot of attention put onto them because of what's been going on specifically with Omega. So they get to Sid, and Sid basically tells them, "All right, you got a mission," and they find out who it is, and they find out that it's for their former enemies. And Hunter originally refused. He originally refused the mission, and Sid basically goes, "No, you're gonna take the mission because there's nothing else." Meaning, you need to pay off your debt, or else you're gonna owe me even more. So they have to take it. So he decides that Omega's gonna stay with Sid. And Sid's like, "Fine, I'll watch her." And Hunter's like, he goes, "I don't even trust you." She goes, "You shouldn't." She goes, "But if watching her makes more money for me, I'll keep her safe." And she's definitely money motivated. And I think because of that, she would actually protect Omega. So they take off, and Omega stays behind. And she's basically being ordered to clean the whole place because Sid thinks that's the only thing she's capable of doing. So the Bad Batch make it to the planet. They get clearance to land. They land, they meet with the robot and find out exactly what's going on. Now, at this point, there are two separate stories. There is the Bad Batch story and then Omega's story in this. So I'm just going to talk about the Bad Batch first, and then I will talk about Omega, and then when they come back together at the end, just so you're aware. So the Bad Batch, they get briefed by the robot on what's happening. So they find out where the senator is. So they start They're not 1,000% sure exactly where he is, but they know roughly the area. So they start looking for him, and they figure out he's in his place of residence. So they, I still find this funny. They use the robot as a decoy to have them come in, have the stormtroopers come in away from the door, and they knock him out, and then they go in, sneak in to the place. They have to do this to several doors. They have to knock out several guards. What I noticed was they weren't killing anybody; they were just stunning them, um, which I thought was different. So they continue to move on. They finally snap into get into the place completely, and they start taking people out one by one by one by one. And then we get to the senator, and the senator is being interrogated, and it looks like he's about to be injected with, I don't know if it's truth serum or if it's some mind control serum or whatever, but they're basically stating that he's going to do what they say as soon as they go through all the treatment. So, right before the robot gets to inject the serum into him, the door opens and a canister comes in. The canister comes in, and it's a smoke bomb. So it goes off. They go in, take the senator out of there, and they try to escape. So they get out there, and now there are tanks everywhere. So they take over a tank. It gets blown up. They try to take another tank. They have to take out multiple tanks to do that. I mean, it's a decent fight scene, I have to say, but it's a lot more battle than I was expecting. So what we saw was, I shouldn't say battle. It's a lot more war like ships and stuff like that, than actual like fighting. The other thing is the Bad Batch continues to only stun their opponents while the stormtroopers are trying to blast them. So anyway, they finally get into a tank, and the senator goes and tries to get them to trust him and to get him to go to a specific spot. And Tech goes, it's a dead end. He goes, trust me, I know what I'm doing. So they do it, and the tanks are trying to catch up to him. So they pull to the side, and he orders them to set a detonator to explode to cause a hole in the wall. So they do so, they get in, and apparently it's like a sewer type looking place. So they escape. While they're escaping, the other tanks are blowing up the tank that is blocking the hole to try to kill the guys in there. So Wrecker has a detonator, attaches it to the wall that they broke into and blow it up to, I would imagine, to block the hole, to block the entrance. So they lose him and they don't know where to go. So they continue on and they get to their ship and they take off. But the key for this was the senator hesitated on leaving because he didn't want to leave his people. But they pretty much tell him that they're better off with you gone because you can live to fight another day and get more reinforcements and help. So he eventually agrees and they take off. Um, so that's the end of the Bad Batch story. So Omega story is a little bit quicker, and it is definitely an interesting thing we learned about Omega. So Omega's cleaning the bar, and Sid notices she's not happy, and she basically talks. Omega, I mean, she talks about how she's unhappy with the fact that they didn't take her. You know, she should be on the mission with them. And Sid says something, and I don't think she quite realizes how bad it was to Omega, because she goes, "Well, maybe if you weren't so helpless, they'd actually take you on these missions." So it hurt Omega's feelings, and she kind of sits in the corner, pissed off. And the guys in the bar are looking at Sid, and Sid realizes that she's kind of messed up. So she goes over to try to talk to her. She goes, "I'm not helpless." She goes, "I can do other things." And she's trying to cheer up. She goes, "I'm watching you." And she's like, "Yeah, but for how much?" And Sid, I mean, she makes a funny comment. She goes, "Apparently not enough." So she leaves. So that piece ended. Fast forward a little bit, and Omega's at the bar, still not happy. And she's playing a game that we've seen multiple times. I don't even know the name of the game. It has like the hologram figures, and it's kind of like chess, but I'm not quite sure how the pieces work. But anyway, Sid's playing against the other guys at the bar, and she's about to make a move, and Omega's like, "I wouldn't do that if I were you." And Sid's like, "Oh yeah, so you're all of a sudden an expert." And she does the move she wanted to do, and she loses a piece. And Omega goes, "I told you I wouldn't have done that if I were you." So Sid's basically, well, then why don't you show me what you would do? How do you get out of this situation? So Omega hits a couple of buttons and wins. And Sid's like, how do you know how to do that? And Omega goes, it's just strategy, and I'm really good at strategy. And Sid's like, how good are you at strategy? She goes, why are you asking? Oh, no, I'm sorry. She goes, it depends. And Sid goes, well, how about for making me some money? And Omega's like, what's my cut? She goes, 30%. And Omega goes, no, 60. And we never know what the actual agreement was. Obviously, it was between 30 and 60, I imagine. But we don't know the actual deal of the splitting of the money. So when the Bad Batch comes with the senator, they see this huge crowd at the bar, and they go inside, and Omega is pretty much, I, I imagine, have beaten multiple opponents. And she's facing her opponent, some blue guy, and she beats him. And everyone's cheering, and Sid notices that the group is back. She goes, all right, bets are over. Time to head out. So Hunter's not happy because there was a huge crowd around Omega. And he's like, I can't believe you did this. I told you to keep a low profile. This is against my orders. And Sid defends her and is like, hey, she just paid off your debt to me. So I treat her with a little bit more respect. So they leave to go talk to the senator to find out payment wise. So they all leave, and Wrecker kind of shoves Hunter with his shoulder to kind of give him a hint that you need to talk to Omega. And so Hunter asks Omega, you know, how good are you at strategy? And she goes, really good. And he goes, how about this? He goes, if you can beat me, he goes, I'm going to let you go on every mission without any hesitation, but you have to beat me. Okay. And so they start to play, but we never see the results, so we don't know what happened. All right. So one thing is, that was the end of the episode. So what we've noticed now is the Empire's really taking a hold of all planets as best they can. They're also really using very, I don't want to put, basically much like prisoner tactics on this, like guards over their prisoners, um, tactics on the people who don't automatically agree with them. And it's noticing more and more. Granted, we kind of had a feeling about it from what we've seen in the other movies and shows and stuff, but we get to see the beginning of it and how they try to break down the civilization to then take it over, which is just, I mean, it's obviously successful in the sense of their results, but in actuality, it's a messed up thing. So we see that. We also see that the Bad Batch still holds a grudge to the opponents of the Republic, even though they're not the enemy anymore. And I don't quite think they realize that yet, 100%, which is part of the problem. Then we have the other instance where the Bad Batch isn't actually killing stormtroopers. And my thought process on that one is because in their minds, it's their brothers. So they don't want to kill them, they stun them instead, even though not all of them are clones anymore. But that being said, we know that majority of the clone troopers at this point in time should still be clones. So they stun them instead of killing them. So we have that. And then we learned about Omega. Her enhanced ability might be strategy, which is very interesting. Wondering how that's going to pan out because not quite sure. I mean, obviously it'll work out in tactics and stuff like that, but I'm wondering now if Omega was meant to be a leader of the clones. Because if she was so great at strategy, she should be the head of the clones. So I wonder if that is why they enhanced her that way. If that's even an enhancement, I'm assuming it is because if she's that good at it, it should be an enhanced ability. But yeah, that was the end of the episode. So just like always, if you like the content you see, there's going to be a lot this month, as I keep saying in all my videos. Please like and subscribe below. That way you don't miss anything. But for now, this is Beastly Eel signing out. Have a good night.